Hi every pony, I'm back again, this time with Chapter 2. Thanks to everyone so far who's listened to the first part of this story, and I hope y'all keep enjoying. So, since I'm basically taking advantage of limited time, let's do this. Chapter 2. And. Applejack pushed Carousel Boutique's doors open, signaling the shrilly door chime.
"One moment, please, and I'll be right with you,"
Rarity called out. Applejack followed her voice to the back of the store, where she found the unicorn fussing over a frilly dress Pinkie Pie was wearing, levitating several pins floating through the air around her.
"Pinkie Pie, will you please hold still for just one moment while I fix these measurements? If you're going to come to dinner with me, you absolutely must dress appropriately."
"I am holding still,"
Pinkie replied, twirling, bouncing, and generally doing just about everything but holding still. Rarity groaned, causing the floating pins to shudder, rolling her jaw back and forth. Applejack eyed the dancing pins cautiously for a moment before clearing her throat loudly to draw their attention.
"I said just one moment."
Rarity shot over her shoulder, not turning around.
"Hey, Applejack," Pinkie said,
smiling and waving at her.
"Me and Rarity are playing dress-up. I saw a sombrero in the closet if you want to play too."
Applejack played with the brim of her hat.
No. Actually, there's something I need to talk to both of you about."
Rarity hummed, turning around.
"Oh, sorry, Applejack, I didn't see you come in. I suppose now is as good a time to take a break as any."
She narrowed her eyes at Pinkie for a brief second before turning back to Applejack, all smiles.
"Would you like some tea?"
Applejack crinkled her nose up at the offer. "No, thanks."
"Ooh, I want some tea,"
Pinkie said with a little bounce.
"And hot chocolate, too."
"You stay right where you are."
Rarity's voice was almost icy, but there was just the barest hint of a smile on her face.
"I won't have you spilling chocolate on your new dress before we've even had the opportunity to show it off." "So," she said, turning back to Applejack with a wink and a playful smile, "how's practice going?" Applejack fumbled around with her hat some more. "I don't know. That's what I came here to talk to you about." Rarity cocked one eyebrow. "What do you mean you don't know?"
"That happens to me all the time,"
Pinkie said, nodding like a schoolteacher.
"I'll just stop and look around, and then I'm like, what am I even doing right now?"
Applejack sighed.
"No, it's not that."
Whatever that was.
"Then what's wrong?"
Rarity asked.
"I really don't know."
Applejack shrugged. She wasn't even sure what was supposed to be happening, really. "She's acting the same as she always does."
"Pinkie Pie!"
Rarity shouted at the pony, who now found herself enveloped in a blue aura.
"Stop bouncing! You're going to crinkle the seams! Do you want to go to dinner with me or not?"
Pinkie froze, her mouth half open. Rarity turned back to Applejack.
"Well, she wouldn't this early on, I suppose. You'll just have to take things up a notch, so to speak."
Applejack didn't respond.
"What's wrong?"
Rarity asked.
"Isn't all this a little crazy?"
Applejack asked, looking back up. "I mean, how is this even supposed to work? Wouldn't something a little, traditional work?"
"Well, duh!"
Pinkie said, breaking through Rarity's magic and bouncing again.
"It's totally crazy! That's the whole point!"
Rarity sighed in Pinkie's general direction before answering.
"Yes, I'll admit it's rather eccentric, but if you want to catch a special fish, you don't use traditional means. If you want to catch a special fish, you must use a special lure."
Applejack chewed the inside of her cheek.
"That actually makes sense, I think." "Good, off with you now,"
Rarity said, pushing her towards the door.
"I'm sorry for being abrupt, but I must finish this dress tonight."
Applejack found herself being shoved outside, and the door closed behind her before she even had a chance to reply. She heard Pinkie's muffled laughter, along with another sigh from Rarity. "Special fish, huh?" she said to herself. She turned and trotted towards Sweet Apple Acres. She couldn't help but smile at the analogy. Rainbow Dash twisted her foreleg around to test the strap's strength, but it held her leg firmly in place. She couldn't do much more than squirm against it. She fidgeted back and forth on the board, and her wings fluttered open and shut, begging to be set free. It felt like something in her body was revolting against the straps holding down her stomach and chest.
"Could you stop wiggling, Sugar Cube?"
Applejack asked, spitting out the strap she'd been trying to fasten. Dash groaned and held her free foreleg out straight along the board.
"This stinks! Can't we wait and do this later?" "Sooner or later, we've got to practice doing the real thing,"
Applejack said, tying the next strap.
"Might as well be sooner."
Applejack leaned down to fasten the straps that would bind her hind legs. Dash's face flushed as her friend's warm breath brushed fleetingly against her thigh before she went to work on the straps. Dash leaned back, resigning herself to her fate and trying to forget the awkward position they were in. The last few practices had gone well enough, even if they hadn't consisted of much more than Rainbow Dash cheering Applejack on from the sidelines. On the one hoof, she was happy to finally get the chance to do something other than imitate Fluttershy. On the other, Applejack would soon be throwing deadly sharp knives right at her head that were big enough to actually take off her head.
"Is this what every team's going to be doing?"
Dash asked, willing herself to think about other things. Applejack snorted, sending vibrations up Dash's leg.
"I don't think any other team is going to be doing this. I even had to get special permission just for us two."
She stood back up, finished. Dash tested the strength of the straps again. She could barely move. If she had to suddenly fly away, like in the off chance that a knife came flying at her stomach, she would be stuck.
"You've done this before, right?"
Applejack chuckled.
"Where have you been the last week?"
Dash, unable to face Hoof, settled for rolling her eyes.
"No, I mean actually done this with a live pony, not just a ponyquin."
"Well..." Applejack's eyes shifted away. Dash's chest tightened.
"Well, what?"
Her voice was a little higher pitched than normal.
"I've never done this with an actual pony,"
Applejack admitted.
"But you've seen me practice. I haven't hit the ponyquin a single time."
Dash was silent for several moments before replying, her voice shaky.
"Let me out."
"Wait a minute."
"I said let me out!"
Dash pushed uselessly against the restraints, her breath coming faster and faster.
"Just listen to me for
now!" Dash yelled at the top of her lungs. She writhed in the straps, her chest heaving with painful breaths. Her heart pounded so hard she was certain it would come crashing through her skin at any moment. It was pointless. The straps had her trapped. Why wasn't Applejack letting her out? She struggled against the bindings with all her strength, her vision blurring. Suddenly, two shining emerald eyes filled her view.
Hey, Sugar Cube. Just take a deep breath."
Dash's muscles stilled as she lost herself in Applejack's eyes. She inhaled slowly, the smell of apples filling her snout. Warmth spread through her chest. She realized that Applejack was pressing up against her, hooves on her shoulders.
"Are you feeling okay?"
Applejack cooed, embarrassingly similar to a mother hen. Heat flooded into Dash's cheeks from somewhere deep in her chest.
Yeah."
She looked away.
"I'm not going to make you do anything you don't want to do,"
Applejack said, pulling away. Rainbow Dash pulled forward, trying to prolong the intimate touch, but the straps held her back. Her skin suddenly felt very cold.
"But,"
Applejack looked her straight in the eyes,
"I would never have even considered doing this if I thought there was any chance at all you could get hurt. I will never hurt you. Do you understand?"
Rainbow Dash nodded.
"Say it."
Dash blinked stupidly.
"Say what?"
Applejack stepped forward until their muzzles nearly touched. Dash wondered what it would be like if she wasn't being held down, if she could just reach her head forward a single centimeter and meet her friend's lips.
"Say you know that I'll never hurt you." "I know that you'll never hurt me." "Do you want me to untie you?"
Rainbow Dash shook her head.
"Okay."
Applejack tapped her on the shoulder.
"I promise I won't hurt you."
Dash watched her turn around and walk up to the stool, picking up the knives. Mercifully, Dash's breath and heartbeat held steady, like Applejack had imparted some part of her strength into Dash's body. Applejack stood still with the knives in her mouth. It was the same stance Dash had seen her make at least a dozen times, but it was an entirely different experience to be on the receiving end of that focused, fixed stare. She had the uneasy feeling that Applejack could see right through her. Abruptly, Applejack began to turn. Dash braced herself against the board. She watched her friend spin around once, twice, and then stop. Then everything stopped. Time stood still for a moment, and then started again, slower than before. The knife spun through the air towards her as if in slow motion. She could see every little etch in the blade's edge, every glint of reflected sunlight on its shining surface. At the very last moment, she screwed her eyes shut. A dull thud reverberated next to her head, and the entire board shook. She cracked her eyes open just wide enough to see a knife sticking in the wood beside her, less than an inch away from her snout. 4 more thuds followed in quick succession, and knives appeared in every gap between her limbs, as if from nowhere. She opened her eyes slowly, her gaze never moving off that first knife. "Heh, I told you I wouldn't." Applejack's smirk fell when she neared the board. "Are you all right?" Rainbow Dash didn't respond, too fixated on the knife to even realize she was being spoken to.
"Hey, Rainbow!"
Applejack shouted, waving a hoof in front of the Pegasus's face. "Please answer me." Dash couldn't think about anything but the knife. If it had landed just 1 little inch over, all would have been over. She wouldn't even exist anymore. Dash felt herself fall forward as the straps holding her forelegs came undone.
"I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry,"
Applejack whispered, wrapping her in a tight hug. All at once, everything came back into focus. Dash wrapped her own forelegs around her friend, returning the embrace.
"That was so cool!"
Applejack stiffened.
"What? Did you see that?"
Dash grabbed on tighter as a delayed burst of adrenaline flowed through her forelegs.
"That knife was like that close to hitting me! It was so awesome!" You liked it?"
Applejack moved to pull away, but Dash held her close, still lost in the memory.
"That was the coolest thing I've ever done!"
Applejack chuckled.
"That's great and all, but would you mind letting go of me?" "Huh?"
Rainbow Dash looked down, noticing for the first time what the soft, warm thing she'd been holding on to was. Letting out an embarrassed squeak, she released her friend from between her hooves.
Sorry. I guess I got a little, excited."
"No problem," Applejack replied, leaning in to undo the rest of Dash's straps. "You ready to get down from there?" Dash jerked to the side, moving away from the pony untying her.
"No way! Let's do it again!"
"What?" Applejack looked at her like she just suggested they go knock Granny Smith's walker out from underneath her. Dash spread her forelegs back into place to be tied.
"Come on."
"All right, I guess if you say so," Applejack said with a shrug. "You're crazy, though, you know that?" Dash smirked while Applejack retightened the straps.
"Crazy awesome."
Well, that wasn't nearly as long as the previous chapter, so, I guess this'll get done even sooner than I expected. I guess this'll end up being uploaded tonight, and Chapter 3 will get done tomorrow. So, until then, thanks once again for listening, and I hope you're all enjoying this as much as I am. For now, have a good night, guys.